Hi everyone, it's me, Caroline. I love that I said it's me like you would know. Maybe you do know if you've been here before, but if you don't, hi, I'm Caroline, and I have tried to figure out how I was going to introduce this video a bunch of different times, and the fact of the matter is that no matter which way you try and slice it, there's no way for me to pitch the concept of this video in a way that just doesn't sound nonsensical and weird. I guess since I don't want to talk around it, I'm just going to be direct. So in this video, I am going to be recommending you books that you might like based off of YouTube ambient room videos. Now that that got out of the way, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of what an ambient room video is, you actually probably are familiar with it. You just don't know that you're familiar with it. The one that I can think of that comes to mind that's probably the most like universally known is that like fireplace ambience video. I'll try to put like 5 seconds of a clip of one fireplace ambience video in right here so we can experience it together. Okay, so that probably gave you a good idea. The whole purpose of an ambient room video is to give off a particular type of ambience. So that's what happened then. You got the kind of crackling noises, you got the entrancing movement of a flame, but it wasn't an actual fireplace, it was a video. Hopefully that familiarizes everyone with all of the materials that are going to be used in today's video. Hopefully you understand the concept of books. I don't know why you would be here if you didn't. And then hopefully now everyone understands the concept of what ambient room videos are as well. That's all the explanation I really think I have left in me. I guess we can just go ahead and get straight to the recommendations. This first one is going to be very straightforward, but I have to start out with it because this was the ambient room that got me into ambient rooms. So the video itself is titled, and I'm looking over here at my laptop. I promise that I'm not like ignoring you. It's just that all my notes and all the videos are right here. So don't be mad. The video itself is from a channel called Tranquil Scores, and the video title is Camp Half-Blood, Percy Jackson and the Olympians Ambience, ASMR, and Soundtrack. So I mean, it's everything. You have the kind of forest setting with that sunlight streaming in. You have the sort of Greek arch, and then with the torches, with the crackling fire, every now and then you'll get some light sword play sounds, or you can hear like hoof beats, and you can just imagine the centaurs running through the woods. I actually only read the first 2 books in this series, but when I picked up The Lightning Thief earlier this year, I was so transported by Riordan's Camp Half-Blood setting. I think that summer camp settings are just always a setting that I enjoy no matter what the book is, but the fact that you add in these demigod characters that are like in training to become these heroes, I just loved it so much. So yes, obviously a Camp Half-Blood ambient room is going to match well with the Percy Jackson series. The rest of the recommendations to come aren't going to be as straightforward as that one, but hopefully they'll still be just as good of pairings with one another. This next video title is called Night Greenhouse Ambience, Plant Watering Sounds, Night Nature Sounds, Pages Turning, Crackling Fire, and it is from a channel called Autumn Cozy. So let's watch a few seconds of it together right now. Okay, so this room reminds me of a very specific setting in the house of the main character of the book A Million Junes by Emily Henry. This is one of Emily Henry's young adult books. However, there is a romance at the forefront of it. If you only know Emily Henry from her kind of adult romances, this book I would say has a very swoony, star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet-esque romance in it. The house itself is a little bit magical and mystical. There are ghosts that wander the grounds. It's surrounded by this kind of winding wood, and the town itself kind of has a similar feel as well. There's a waterfall that never runs cold. And I really think that if you admired in that video the kind of inky darkness with the sparkling, glittering stars, but then also the kind of warmth and goodness of the crackling fire, you will get similar vibes from the romance and the setting in A Million Junes. Okay, this next video, I'm gonna read you the title and you're just gonna have to stick with me a little bit because I'm gonna have to explain my way through this pairing recommendation. So the title of the video is called Christmas Eve Ambience, Relaxing Christmas Church and Falling Snow Sound. And the channel who created this video is called Calmed by Nature. So let's watch a few seconds now. So you hear that whistle of the wind and the crunch of the snow, and you see that steady snowfall. And you also see this church that kind of looks like it could be on the edge of a town that's very, very isolated. And basically, I want you to forget the Christmas part of this whole thing, because the book that I'm going to recommend to you with this, minus the Christmas part, is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This book is the beginning of a very beloved Russian folkloric fairy tale trilogy, I believe. The atmosphere of this book, I think, is very much owed to its setting of this kind of extremely cold and isolated Russian town. Now, looking at this church, I don't know that it's actually Russian inspired, but church and religion is very much a part of this story's plot line in almost kind of a daunting and ominous way. The main character of this book is very much ostracized and othered because she contains these abilities to kind of see and communicate with these fairy tale-esque creatures. There's this priest character that kind of represents the church and religion that's trying to suppress that. At the very least, if you're wanting a cold, atmospheric, wintry setting, I think you should pick that up. Then also keep in mind this sort of like ever-looming religious presence that infiltrates its way through that plotline as well. Next up, we have a video called Forest Sounds, Woodland Ambience, Birdsong, Nearby Village 3 Hours. And it is from the channel called The Guild of Ambience. So here we go, let's watch a few seconds. Okay, so I'm going a little basic with this one, I know. But looking at those trees, did you hear what language that they probably spoke? What language do the trees speak? The trees speak Latin. That's right. If you liked the ambience of that video and you have not read The Raven Boys, the first in the Raven Cycle series, you have to read it because it is literally that exact atmosphere. Following our main character who gets kind of intertwined with this group of boys known as the Raven Boys, and they become intertwined kind of, sort of, in this quest for a ley line, which, don't ask me to explain that to you. It has to do with ghosts. I think that if you look at that wooded image in the video with the kind of haze and mist coming through and the sunlight peeking through the trees, you totally get a ghosty ambience as well. Beyond just the setting itself, Maggie Stievfater's writing literally feels like the equivalent of ivy spidering up through like the wheels and the engine of a rusted out muscle car. And I know that's so specific, but if you've read it, then you know. And if you enjoy that ambiance, you've got to pick up that book. There's definitely parts that involve winding walks through woods that I picture to be just like the ones in the video. Ooh, okay, I'm excited for this next one. The video title is called Summer Kitchen Ambiance and Fireplace and White Noise and ASMR. And it's from the channel Amelia Style. So let's watch a few seconds here. First of all, I love that video itself because there's such minor details that they went into. And the minute that I saw this video, it reminded me of such a specific setting from a book called Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin. Basically in that book, we're following these two twins that go to live with a grandmother or an aunt for a summer, and the aunt or grandmother's house, we have another kind of mystical house setting. There are hallways in her house that are sometimes there and sometimes not. There is this kitchen with a fire that never stops burning, and then also in one of the upstairs bedrooms there is an owl demon king that feeds on the bones of young girls. The book itself has such spooky island witchy vibes, and looking at this kitchen, I picture that exact kitchen with the fire that never goes out. The witchiness of this book and this video, honestly, hopefully you can get the vibe that it's a lot less Macbeth style witches and a lot more like practical magic style witches. And honestly, the atmosphere of that book as a whole doesn't match this vibe entirely. Some parts of that book actually get quite dark and ominous, but there are certain parts, and certainly the parts that take place in that kitchen, that match this video exactly. Here we go, next video title, Cornfield Sunset with Crickets and Wind, 7 hours of wind through cornfield, relax, meditate, sleep, and the channel name is called Visual Escape, relaxing music with 4K visuals. So here we go. Watching that, you're probably thinking like, Caroline, that's one of the most realistic videos that you've played yet. The book, however, is not realistic, semi-rooted in the real world with some decidedly not real world things thrown in there as well. The book I'm talking about is called Burn by Patrick Ness, and the way that I like to pitch this book is, what if the instigation of the Cold War was actually caused by a dragon worshipping cult trying to wipe out human existence so that dragons could regain control of the earth. The way that I'm gonna link it to this video, at the very beginning, a father and his daughter are living in this small, I think Midwestern town, and they have hired a dragon to help at their farm. And this is not a metaphorical dragon. This is like an actual real deal dragon. But with this video, we have that kind of farm cornfield setting. And then we also have that kind of like fiery sky in the background, which I thought was a little dragon-esque. The book itself goes everywhere from like cults and small town murder and like parallel universes and conspiracy theories, and I just really think that if you played this video in the background while reading that book, it would amplify that experience tenfold. Next video that I'm going to recommend you a book based off of is titled Space Station Sleeping Quarters Ambience, 10 Hours, White Noise, Sleep, Study, Meditation, and it is from the channel White Noise Tranquility, and let's watch a few seconds now. Looking at that room in that video, does it not remind you of the type of room that a capitalistic, multi-billion-dollar, money-hungry corporation would set up on a space station in which they put 10 unsuspecting and sort of underprivileged, impoverished teenagers on with the hopes of sending them to another planet to mine this otherworldly substance, and the way that they're enticing them is with money beyond their wildest dreams, but it's actually all a gigantic lie. If that sounds at all interesting to you, or if you're looking for that kind of deep space vibe that I get from that video, I think that you should pick up the Nyxia Triad by Scott Reintgen. The first book in particular takes place almost entirely on a space station, but you also kind of get that like dorm room college vibe because these teenagers don't actually know each other, but they're pitted against each other, but it's also kind of like they're all each other has, but they're going through trials and fighting against each other to try to actually make it on this mission. Anyways, we have deep space in there. We have a space station setting. We also have just some of the most endearing cast of characters that I personally have ever read from. And I know that's not indicated in the video itself, but I just thought that I would throw it in. If you liked the vibe of this room, or if you just like a good cast of characters, a found family, if you will, I think you should pick up this book. The title of the next video is called Portal 2 Ambience, Rat Den location of Sucker's Luck, 1 hour re-upload, and it's by a channel called Splocks Labs Ambiances. And I'm assuming that this comes from a video game or some type of game that I know nothing personally about. Just looking at the room itself, it's very post-apocalyptic to me, just with kind of the abandoned warehouse look of it. And the sounds themselves are very foreboding. Another book that I can recommend based off of this is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. That one isn't necessarily post-apocalyptic, but we're following this main character that through a bunch of different things gets ripped out of his main life, and then he basically is experiencing a bunch of different existences in a bunch of different worlds, and some of the worlds that he ends up going to are kind of these abandoned, desolate worlds that he has to survive, and the whole atmosphere of that book is very much dark and foreboding, which are the vibes that I get from this video. And then the final book that kind of came to mind is actually another Patrick Ness book called More Than This. This one, at the very beginning, our main character drowns, and then when he wakes up, he's in this world that is seemingly abandoned, and then it is also seemingly familiar to him, but it's also eerily unfamiliar. And for a lot of that book, we're just following the main character very much solitary, trying to survive. That's another kind of vibe that I get from this video. This video's title is called Winter Storm Ambience with Icy Howling Wind Sounds for Sleeping, Relaxing, and Studying Background, and it is from the channel Relaxing Sounds with 3 Z's. And the book that I'm recommending alongside this one is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig. This is another kind of post-apocalyptic setting book. It's been a couple of years since I've actually read it, so I'm kind of foggy on the plot details themselves. But I do remember that we're following this very, very small and isolated community, and then at the beginning, they get word that basically the grid has shut down. So there's no more electricity, there's no more like cell reception, and the community itself starts to kind of feel some of these effects because they have to survive very harsh wintry conditions without any water, without any heating, so on and so forth. So again, we're sort of getting those survival elements mixed in with the post-apocalyptic elements. There's almost some horror elements that are woven in as well, if I can remember, which I think is kind of indicated in this video with that icy howling wind, and then the snow that is just whipping so hard that you can hardly see like in front, and the mountains are kind of blurred out in the background. I think the sounds of this video in particular are ones that you could use to enhance the reading experience of that book. Next video and book recommendation are kind of a sharp contrast to the previous one. The video itself is called Cozy Rain Ambience, Indoor Rain Sounds, and the channel is called Cozy Rain. So let's listen to a few seconds. My book recommendation for this one is The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemeinhart. This is a very warm and heartfelt middle grade, and the atmosphere of this video is very warm to me as well. In the book, we're following our main character, Coyote, whose life is a little bit different. She actually lives on a renovated school bus with her father. The plot itself kind of just follows the two of them and explores their relationship, and they kind of pick up different passengers along the way as they're traveling across the US. Coyote's bedroom is also at the back of this bus, this renovated bus, and I just imagine it to look exactly like this. The picture's kind of hung up, and then the fairy lights dangling, and then we even have a floppy hat that I can totally picture our main character Coyote wearing. The rain sounds, I'm not entirely sure match the plot of the book exactly, but I mean, a rain noise ambiance isn't gonna hurt your reading experience with this book, I think. Our next video comes from the channel Ambiance Magic, and the title of the video is Natural Ambiance Nighttime Near Town, Cars, Night Bugs, Distant City So let's listen. The book that I'm going to pair with this one is The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. I understand that the image in this video and then the cover of the book look very similar, and that might have influenced my pairing a little bit. But this book, majority of it takes place in this very small town in this 1970s Alaska, and we're following the lives of a couple of different teenagers that at the beginning aren't necessarily related, but then as their storylines wind on, they sort of wind closer and closer together. I've never been to Alaska, so I cannot speak from experience, but the descriptions of this town and just of all of the different settings in that book itself, Bonnie Sue Hitchcock does such a wonderful job at transporting you as the reader there. And some of the settings I feel like really match this video itself. And I think that the city noises combined with that sort of hushed nighttime ambience together would really match certain parts of this book. Okay, we're down to our final recommendation pairing, for which the video comes from a channel called Kaze Photo or K's Photo 4K, and the title of the video itself I can't tell to you exactly because I believe that it's all in Japanese, but when I put it into Google Translate, the title in English is Maruhara River Beautiful Waterscape 3 Hours Healed by the Sound of Murmuring in the Sunlight Through the Trees. Gosh, and if the book recommendation that I have for this one just doesn't perfectly encapsulate the phrase healed by the sound of murmuring in the sunlight through trees, I don't know what does. The book is The Shape of Thunder by Jasmine Warga. It's a middle grade story that focuses on two girls and kind of them finding their friendship and rekindling their friendship after a tragic event tore and split their friendship apart. They want to complete this mission of searching for a wormhole. They want to find a wormhole to kind of travel back in time to correct this tragic incident, and they go searching for a wormhole in this kind of forest that backs up to their neighborhood or their houses. And I mean, the book itself talks a lot about healing from tragedy and dealing with grief, especially in regards to young people. But I also think that just Jasmine Warga's purpose and her writing style is extremely healing as well. That I think the kind of the healing sounds of the water would add to a lot. Again, there are some settings where the girls are exploring this kind of sunlight, oak tree, water-filled forest that I think this video kind of matches up perfectly with. And that's all the recommendations that I have for you. I hope that my intention with this video, like I hope that my vision for this video actually translates when I'm editing it. I am going to leave a couple of different things linked down below. I will leave a playlist with all of the videos that I mentioned in this video, but then I'm also going to leave a playlist that's much larger that includes all of the videos that I had compiled when doing kind of research for this video. You are welcome to peruse through both. If you didn't find any exact recommendations here, have a look through that larger playlist, see if you can maybe find any videos that you can match with books that you've read in the past or any books that you're currently reading. Let me know if you are already a user of ambient rooms and if you use them to enhance your reading experience, and if you have any specific book to ambient room recommendations, I would love to know. I bet the lighting changed so much throughout this video because it took me so long to actually film and figure out what I was saying. So I just want to say, especially if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I hope that you are having a fantastic day. See you again very, very soon. Goodbye.